we are able to have several questions before I respond to the interventions made.
I've made you a co-host, so you can allow those who have requested to speak.
Joshua, can you hear me? Joshua? Joshua, you can proceed. Ghost, you can proceed as we wait for Joshua. Thank you.
Should I proceed, Ama?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, thank you for giving me this time, Manwa. I'm very grateful to share a podium with Peter Diambo and you other guys. I just want to echo.
Joshua, we have lost you. Even as we wait for Joshua, Freedom, are you there? Freedom Fighter?
Yes. Yes, hi
Kindly
guys.
proceed. Kindly proceed.
Okay, hi. Mine, I don't know if it's a question, but I'll just go on. As we are looking at the office of the First Lady was scrapped off. Are we aware that even the county governments actually do have the offices of First Ladies in quotes, and they are allocated a budget? And considering now the national First Lady, the office is not even legal. How legal is it that the governor's wives do have an office that actually has a budget? I know this because I have interacted with most of them, and I know they have a budget that is allocated for a lot of things. And yeah, that was my concern, and I've always waited for someone to address that, because we are addressing the top, the national one, but we are not addressing the one that is at the county level. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? I can see Shua.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Proceed kindly.
So thank you for giving me this opportunity to take part in this conversation. Question is on the office of the Prime Minister. It has fired most of his cabinet. We were hoping he could start with the Prime Minister, because it is his office that is not constitutional. So I wanted to know if there is something that can be done to scrap this this office, because first of all, it's putting a lot of entire running the whole office. I know it's very expensive, and that is exerting a lot of pressure on the taxpayers. Another thing I wanted to know is all these guys who have gone home, they have a record corruption, and especially the inspector general. There's a lot of stories around him. So are they going to be? Is there anything that can be done? Since they've gone home, it will be forgotten. So I wanted to know if there's something going to be done so that they accountable for all the things they have done. So I think these are my two questions.
Thank you, Shua. Zach, can you hear me? Zach, kindly proceed.
Guys, I'm based back on now. So can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Kindly proceed.
Okay, thank you guys. So I'm on right now, so you'll have to for the background noise. So what we'll do, Mr. Manwa, I don't know if you are taking any question at the moment.
Yes, we are taking questions. If you can shoot your question kindly so that we are able to answer.
Okay. So I see there's a list of speakers already lined up, so I will not get too much into that. So guys, shoot your questions. Remember, when you take the mic, try and let us know where you're joining the space from. We're also trying to understand how far, geographically, how far this movement has spread, how far and wide it's spread. So when you join, kindly do let us know where you're joining us from. Okay. Then let's keep the questions. I know we have a lot let out of our chests, that's for sure. But in this specific space, now that we have this privilege of having these legal experts here with us today, let us try and ask these legal questions which have been bothering us for the longest time, so that we know how we proceed with the movement. Yes, heading forward. So the next speaker, Mr. Zach, I'm going to give it to Zach. I don't know if anyone else was speaking before him, but I'm going to give it to Zach. So Zach, you can take over.
Hello, hi, thank you, Cyprian, for the chance. Thank you, Madam President, Faith Odhiambo, and thank you, Manwa, for setting up this session. I have one or two questions. I don't know what had been covered earlier on. I'm speaking from Nairobi. I'm a lawyer, an advocate, and just want to speak on two things. One is the question of what is being discovered in terms of what is coming out today. The few bodies, a number of bodies that have been discovered today. The president is on record as saying, in terms of saying that there will be no extrajudicial killings under his regime. We have had a lot of stories, a lot of information and news about people being abducted, and now there's clear confirmation that there have been people who have actually been killed. It is not clear yet if these killings that have been discovered today are linked to the recent demonstrations, but whether or not they are, there is a clear failure and abdication of duty from the security apparatus of this country as well as the presidency. And I think as a movement, we need to be very clear to the extent of accountability. And we need to not relent to the extent of knowing that how did we get to the point where people can be killed and thrown away like takataka. It is very, very, for me, where I'm sitting right now, I'm very angry because when I see people's bodies in bags, when I see they're being pulled out from quarries and dump sites, is this a country that enjoys a constitution to the magnitude that the 2010 constitution actually provides for? And I think one of the critical achievements that I want us to be sure that we want to achieve is accountability. And when we see people resigning and those being fired, it's a question of accountability. And accountability cannot be fully realized until the person with the highest public trust and public responsibility is held to account. These things have happened under the regime of William Ruto. The deaths and the killings have happened under the regime of William Ruto. And so for me, my question is, are we ready and willing to push to the last hope? Because dismissing incompetent CSs that he hired, for me, is not an answer. He must have been incompetent in the first place to hire those CSs. So we must ensure that there is accountability to the highest office in the land. And when we see the things that we are seeing today, when you scroll over Twitter, when you go to any media, today, you're seeing bodies. So far, I have seen a number of up to 9. Some are reported to be from the Githurai killings that the government has been so keen to discount. I remember a recent presser where the president actually said there's only one person or two who died from Githurai, as if one doesn't matter. But now we are seeing bodies being discovered all over the place. For me, I want us to now focus on that question, that where does accountability stop? The second issue is this. When now that the cabinet has been disbanded, I want us to be keen to the next individuals to hold that office. Let us not have a wait and see moment where we are waiting to see who is nominated and who is eventually hired. I think we have demonstrated a capacity to be able to hold and to audit and to check and to actually set a standard of who we want to occupy certain offices. When the Constitution of Kenya 2010 was being put in place, it was very deliberate as to who could occupy the office of a cabinet secretary. And it clearly stated that a politician, there was intent to prevent a politician from occupying that particular office. And we should not allow ourselves to go back to a situation where politicians with no expertise, no experience, no technical know-how are occupying technical offices. We have seen the likes of Kipchumba Murkomen occupying transport offices, Nahumicha occupying health offices. What are they doing there? What could they possibly do? Yeah. So I call us and I call this movement to actually making sure that competent individuals do occupy these offices that are aligned to their competencies. And that is the thing that we must ensure. I am happy about the progress that this movement has made, but I call us to remain vigilant, to call people to account and to ensure that the right people are in the right places to do the right thing. That is how we get to a point where there is extreme accountability. Accountability to points and to a question, to a situation where that when something happens, the highest person in that office takes accountability and leaves and goes away. So for me, those are the 2 pointers I wanted to share with us today, to just, number one, make sure that the bodies that are in those bags, the bodies that we are seeing today, there is someone who will actually fall for them. There is someone who will actually be held accountable. Resigning is not enough. Firing people is not enough. And just saying that we regret and thorough investigations are going to be done is not enough. The LSK and all other well-meaning civil society organizations are being put to task to ensure that we are not going to be placated by dismissals and firings and everything. We must ensure that somebody actually takes accountability. In this country of today, in the Kenya of 2024, this is not something we should be seeing. Thank you very much.
Could I speak?
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Zach, for those contributions. Who's that who wants to speak?
Yeah, my name is
Porto, I
Rogers.
can't spell your name.
Rogers.
Yes, proceed kindly.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Faith, for the wonderful job you've been doing so far. We really appreciate what you've been doing and leading the LSK to really fight for the freedoms of speech and the rights of every Kenyan. I only have about 4 questions that I would really like to hear responses from the legal team. The first one being, considering the push to recall the members of parliament, is there any other legal means that we can use to have them go home so that we can have a fresh call for elections? Considering that the recall clauses in the Constitution can be a bit tricky, I think we have noticed how our parliamentarians operate, especially down in the villages. So collecting the 30% required signatures from each constituency and the 15% required from each ward might be a little bit tricky, considering the dirty games being that will be played by the members of parliament. Is there any other legal means that we can use to have probably the entire Parliament go home so that fresh elections can be called. That's immediately they constitute the IBC. That's one question. The second question is looking at probably in the few coming weeks or a month or so, the president will be constituting the cabinet. Is there a way we can initiate prosecution of those cabinet secretaries that we are sure have participated in corrupt practices, so that going forward we actually set a precedence that even the incoming cabinet secretaries would be afraid of going the route of the likes of Kipchumba Murkomen? So is there a way we can initiate these prosecutions immediately, or investigations and prosecutions immediately, so that we actually deter the incoming cabinet secretaries from following the same route? The third one, again, is on the security team, the CS, Kindiki, and the IG, who is just tendered their resignation. We also need to find a way of initiating cases so that we don't let them off the hook that lightly. So a resignation is not a leeway to just leave them, let them off the hook. So if we can have legal proceedings so that we set precedents in this country that anyone who goes against the constitution is actually prosecuted and jailed if it comes to that. Then lastly, if it push comes to shove and the government stays put, is there a legal way to initiate a means by which the citizens can boycott remittance of revenue to the government so that we starve them until they take heed of the requirements being put across? Thank you very much. Those will be my questions for now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any other question before I introduce Council Member Teresia Ovinya? Any other question, kindly? Tess, are you there?
Hello, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm from Busia, currently in Nairobi. Here comes my question. In the last meeting, we had a session that Mr. Kio Mtata was part of the panel, and he said there is a time he went to court, but his petition was denied that he acquired the documents he acquired documents not through the legal means, and it was concerning this issue of the debts that we are having. So here is my question: is there by any means we can access the information regarding the agreement between parties when it comes to our debt, so that we know what we are dealing with, if we are paying the debt that exists or not? And another one is, is there any way that our debt, or in case our government goes to borrow money, it can be published, we know the agreement or the same, so that we can intervene what money was intended to and what work it did, if possible. And another question comes to our fallen heroes. We've seen it happen in the previous maandamanos, there was no clarity when it comes to justice for those who lost their lives, who lost their loved ones, and those who are injured. So here is our concern as Gen Zs. Can there be any way through the LSK, even if it means that we can go extra mile to contribute something so that these guys are held accountable, so that there is justice to our fallen heroes? And again, is that how can we hold this government accountable and give us the details, break down into details how they spend their money in the previous regime, the previous year, so that we can follow up with all the CSS that were there and even county-wise. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Cyprian, are you there? Okay, let's Boy. Boy, are you there? Bonnie?
Yes, okay, I'm on.
Bonnie,
Thank
kindly
you.
proceed.
Yes. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible enough. First, I want to thank Faith and Manwa for the opportunity. My questions are brief, and this follows the conduct of the immediate former CSS, especially the CS of Education. We saw him issuing employment letters of teachers on political rallies. And my question is there a way in which we can undo such? Because I think that act denied some most deserving Kenyans an opportunity for employment. And to my second question, I think this is a question that has been asked severally in different platforms, but I'll ask in a brief. So my question is, how can we adjust the numbers in terms of salaries to state officers? I think we are paying more than we can manage, because I think their salaries among the highest compared to different countries in Africa and also the rest of the world. And also in terms of numbers, this thing of over representation. I think there was a speaker before the last pace fell. There was a speaker who was talking about was talking about the same in terms of numbers. So how can we? And also answer my that question: what constitutional changes can we make so that we make the society or running of our governance a bit fair? For instance, how can we change the constitution to make, for instance, the recalling of an MP easier? You see, I think those who came up with the constitution made it difficult for us to recall our MPs. So those are my few questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Greatness, are you there?
I want to talk to people. Hello? Hey.
Kindly proceed.
Yeah, you can proceed.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, proceed kindly.
Okay, my question is, my name is James. I'm listening from Tengera. My question is, okay, most of my question nimesikia wase wamejibu mingi, but mine ilikuwa kwa MPs. Huyo mse mwenye amesema about to make easier mambo ya MP kulikoriwa. I guess that kuna venye tunaelezewa about that more. Because most of us huku chini tunateseka na mambo mingi sana actually. For example, mimi here in Kitengela, mimi observe vitu sana. And nimenotice kuna askari kadhaa huku Kitengela kuna okay, most of us tumechanganyika, Masai, Wakamba, Wakikuyu, but ukiweka biashara yako Kitengela lazima uchote kitu kidogo kwa polisi. OCS wameanziwa na OCS, wameanziwa from there too, which means corruption ndio inatumiza sisi wote. Pale juu akiwajibika, hadi huku chini hawa wasee wataacha hii maneno ya kufongo ama kuchukua anything huku chini. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take a last question so that we can take those responses first. Can we have DKT? Ibros, DKT? DKT, can you hear me? If he's not there, Mr. Buni. Mr. Buni, can you hear me? Okay, guys, before we take the next set of questions, let me just respond to some of the few questions. I want to first make a declaration. We have on board Council Member Teresia Wavinya. We have the Advocate Zaka Lakonya on board. And I think we have several advocates on board who can be able to respond to the several questions that have been raised by the members of the public. I will respond to the few questions so that we don't have numerous questions to respond to before we address the ones that have been raised. I think someone raised questions with regard to the First Lady. I think based on the President's earlier declarative, the First Lady offices and allocations in terms of finances was scrapped off. It's interesting to note that indeed even county governments have allocated resources for the First Lady. It's important to note, and as a law society, we have to indicate that indeed these offices are unconstitutional. They're not provided in the Constitution. You guys, if you go through the Constitution of Kenya 2010, there is nowhere the First Lady has been mentioned, or the Second Lady for that matter, because we have the President and the Deputy President, and in county governments, we have the Governor and the Deputy Governor. We have no business as members of the public with the First Ladies and the wives of members of public. That is the President, the Deputy President, the county government, that is the governors and the deputy governors and their spouses, and even the National Assembly. And I know for a fact some of the members of parliament might think that their wives are First Ladies within the constituencies. It's important to note that these offices are not known under the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And therefore, it's important that we, as citizens, oppose, and I applaud the step by the President of the Republic of Kenya saying that the allocations to those offices have already been vacated. To that extent, I believe even county governments that are making allocations to those offices, if you come from those respective counties, we had an intense discussion about county governments, because under the Constitution of Kenya 2010, there are two levels of government. There's the national government and the county government, the devolved government. And the steps that we have made, including culminating into the dismissal of the cabinet secretaries, culminating into the dismissal of the Attorney General, culminating into the subsequent actions that will be taken and dismissal of the actually rejection of the bill before the National Assembly, we have to be very candid to the lowest level of governments, and that is the county government, the MCAs who are at the local level. If your county alleges to have intends to allocate resources to the first woman in that county, then it's unconstitutional, and you have to take necessary steps. And it's at this stage that we need to actually take caution. Remember, you are the electorate. You are the ones donating your right to individuals to represent that right, both at the county level, at the National Assembly level through the members of parliament, at the women rep level, and therefore you have a right to appear before the county assembly, before the members of the county assembly, those are the MCAs, and implore upon them not to pass a budget that makes allocation to a women representative. It's very important for you to know that whereas you're fighting for your rights at the national level, at the national government, the county level is the lowest unit. And the county is split into sub-counties where you have representatives of the members of the county assembly, who we call popularly as MCAs. You have to hold the MCAs accountable. Your county representative from where you come from must ensure they agitate the your interests, and the interest of your kin and the members within that sub-county at the county assembly. They are a reflection of what we have in the National Assembly in Nairobi, where we call it parliament. And so your parliament at the local level is your MCAs. And I think Cyprian earlier mentioned that we need to know who is representing who from the regions, so that we don't assume that we have representation across the region. And I think I've addressed that question about the first lady and the first woman as it is in the county government level. You have to oppose any proposal. And again, as we indicated earlier, if you go to the Auditor General's website, you will find out qualified or unqualified opinions, reports of the allocations given to those counties. And if those reports are adverse, you have a duty to challenge that county government, to ask for the removal of your governor, to actually ask for the removal of your MCA for misrepresenting your interests and going forward and actually agitating for their personal interests. And again, you have a duty to report that to the Law Society of Kenya, because I think as the Public Interest Litigation Committee of the Law Society of Kenya will take up any matter from any county within the boundaries of this republic and challenge the same within our courts if any officer, any public officer, has violated the provisions of the Constitution of Kenya. Let me go to the second question of abduction. And I think Zach, being a senior member of the legal profession, you have raised several issues about the Githurai bodies. I think it's a matter of general public that indeed there are several bodies that have been found at Githurai on a dump site. This tells you that we have not really held our governments accountable with regards to the right to life. This is a constitutional right. When members of the public express their rights to demonstrate, they do not, and in any event, if they violate any right outside their Bill of Rights, then the relevant government agencies have a right to institute proceedings. But there is no individual, including the President of the Republic of Kenya, Who has a right to take away the right to life? Nobody is above the law. We are all above the law, including the individuals we elect into public office. And I think that is very important because it's very difficult for us to collect evidence and information as to those violations. But within your space, whether you are in Nairobi or any county within the Republic of Kenya, you have to ensure that you collect substantive evidence on these violations, because the Constitution provides for the Bill of Rights. If you went to the street to demonstrate and you did not affect any other third party, you did not throw stones into stalls of other people, you did not loot any other person's shop, you did not assault any other person exercising their rights, then you have a duty. You have a constitutional duty to exercise your right peacefully. And so those violations that emanate from exercising your rights, you must exercise them. And I think regardless of where you come from, the judiciary within the Republic of Kenya has high courts across the country. The last 10 years, we have had the benefit of having high courts in over 25. It's approaching 30 counties. And in any high court within the Republic of Kenya, you have a right to allege violation of your individual rights. If you are abducted, if you are injured, if you are held beyond the constitutional requirement of 24 hours, and any other violation, including intimidation, frustration, and threats and all that, the High Court has inherent powers, inherent jurisdiction to hear and determine questions of abuse of any violations under the Bill of Rights. And let me go to the other question. Can we hold can we hold account the new cabinet that is being set up by the president? Can we hold them account? Let me first say that you guys elected your members of parliament. You gave a delegated right. You delegated your right to members of parliament to represent you in parliament and make decisions on your behalf. If, and I know for a fact the president will present to the National Assembly the new team that will be in cabinet. Remember, there is a minimum under the Constitution of 14. There is a maximum of 22 under the Constitution. If the president chooses to appoint 22 or appoint 14, he has that prerogative. But whoever he chooses to sit as a cabinet secretary, you as members of the public, you have a duty. And I need to reiterate the position that the president of the Law Society, Faith Odhiambo, reiterated earlier, that if you are a member of the public, you have a right to instruct your member of parliament in writing. You don't need to text them or anything. Write. Most of you are learned. You can write to your member of parliament, make that letter public and tell them that we are opposed to you as agreeing to have this cabinet secretary be appointed for this position. And all those positions we have in office, if all of us would write to our members of parliament and tell them that we are opposed to this position that you are taking, and it's documented, it's very easy for some of us at the Law Society, based on the information you have actually given to your member of parliament, and based on the vote that they took, to either ask them to vacate office, or number two, ask the court to consider the opinions of the members within that constituency and declare that they did not represent the position of the members within that constituency. Again, the essence of public participation, there's a decision from the Supreme Court which has said that public participation should not be a process. You remember Justice David Maraga, the former Chief Justice, said that the issue of representation, the issue of government proceeding, it's not an event, it's a process. You have to pay attention to what is happening in government, to what is happening in parliament. As members of the respective national assemblies, where you come from, where you vote, you have to ensure that your member of parliament follows the process of law and they don't make decisions. Earlier we said that parliament is the biggest letdown in the justice system and also in the legislative process, and they have failed to actually hold government accountable in terms of oversight. And so you have to pay attention to how your member of parliament voted, what informed that vote. Was it personal, or was it involving the views collected from the public? And as the Supreme Court said, that the process of public participation should not just be a process, because you cannot just report to parliament that we listen to members of the public. You have to also demonstrate that we listened and we incorporated their views in our final reports. And these are the views. So that when the Law Society challenges these decisions in court, they will tell the court, look, these were the views of the members of the public, and they are documented. This is what they said. But this member of parliament refused to comply and proceeded to State House to receive instruction as to how they will vote on this bill. And as I indicated earlier, the members of parliament of the National Assembly are our biggest enemies in terms of execution of legislation and oversight question. There's a question that has been raised on the question of recall of MPs. I want you guys to read the Constitution under Article 97 and 98, the right to recall. There's a process. There's a process of collecting signatures. There's a process of that is anchored under the law. Kindly read those provisions, because the Constitution is a very short document. You can be able to grasp those facts and be able to institute proceedings as an individual to recall your member of parliament. Can we initiate the prosecution of cabinet secretaries who have been incompetent and who have misused public resources? Yes, you have a right individually to institute proceedings against any cabinet secretary, both former and even current. And again, considering that the president has already asked the members of the public to, has already fired his cabinet, it means that the 21 cabinet secretaries will be, the names will be presented before parliament for vetting. Once the vetting goes through, there will be a process of public participation, collecting views from the members of the public. If he elects the same individuals who have cases in court, remember Chapter 6 of the Constitution has not died, because the Constitution is clear as to whether, as on the issues of accountability, transparency, on the issues of individuals, whether they have been involved in cases in court, corruption cases, whether they have a clean record and stuff like that. So you have to look at the individual being nominated to parliament. And you have a right to instruct your member of parliament. And even before you instruct your member of parliament, you have a right to do a memoranda in your name to the National Assembly, asking them that I reject this nominee on the following grounds. He has been involved in criminal cases. He is a murderer. He or she has participated in corruption cases, so that if those views are not considered, then it's very easy for you, after the decision of Parliament has been made, whether they approve that individual nominee or not, you can pursue that process in court and indicate that indeed this person does not meet the constitutional provisions of being appointed to a substantive public office, because they don't meet the procedural and constitutional requirements for appointment to public office. Those procedural and constitutional requirements are actually under our constitution and are actually under Chapter 6 and Article 10. If you look at those articles, they provide for the integrity process for individuals who actually are supposed to actually be appointed to public office. Let me go back to, I think, the last question that Benny asked. How can we adjust the numbers of our representatives? Because we have women reps, we have members of parliament, we have the Senate, we have the national, we have the county government, and all those representatives. I think it's obvious and it's true that we are overrepresented. We have women reps. In a proper democracy, we should have men reps, because under this generation, and I'm sorry to say, and I don't want anybody to be offended, gender representative is a position that is actually debatable, because again, what the Constitution of Kenya wanted to cure was the poor representation of our lady gender within government. And you can agree with me, if you look at the judiciary right now, a majority of women take up the biggest representation in the judiciary, from the Chief Justice going downwards. If you go to the National Assembly, we have big representation, and I think there's a question that was asked about recalling the National Assembly. I feel that the representation has not been felt and has not been, the constitutional requirement on balance has not been met. And I therefore side with the proposal that the president should dissolve parliament based on the advice by the former Chief Justice, seeking that they have not complied with the constitutional provisions, and therefore there is a constitutional requirement that the Chief Justice should advise the president to dissolve parliament. But in other areas of society, there is that gender balance. And again, our women representatives in parliament, they need to know that they play a major role. Because again, if you look at the role they have played, they are siding with government. So you do not have proper representation of people who can speak on our women within the society. Lastly, on the question of contributions to the Law Society, I think the president, if you visit the president's page and my page and any other council member's page, you will find, and the Law Society of Kenya page, you will find a tall number. If you intend to contribute to the individuals who have been arrested and incarcerated in police stations, if you want to contribute to cases in court on questions of abduction, being held beyond the constitutional period of 24 hours, then there's a tall number where you can make your formal contributions to the Law Society, and we appreciate that contribution. I hope I can take up other questions. I can allow other speakers. I know there are several advocates on this forum, and it's very important that we give them a chance. Kindly raise your name. But at this juncture, I will give Mike. Mike, you can take over the mic. Kenya lady, Kenya lady, can you hear me? Okay. Omondi, are you there?
What a fantastic day.
Can anyone hear
I
me?
love Mercedes-Benz. I love AMG.
Yes, we can hear you.
Cyprian.
This is one of the best days in my life, that's for sure.
Keegan.
And there's no car that can
Obadiah.
overtake this car. It is just like no other car.
Kipchirchir Mutai.
This miserable little Golf GTI thinks he's fast, but it isn't a competition for me, you know? He overtakes me at the right side, no problem at all. Because I know what I'm driving, so I don't have to impress anything. Anyone.
Keegan, are you there?
This is a class on its own, in my opinion.
Kenyan lady.
What a machine. What a car. What a fantastic day. I love Mercedes-Benz. I love AMG.
Omondi.
This is one of the best days in my life, that's for sure. And there's no car that can overtake this car.
Hello,
It is just
can you hear me?
like no other car.
Yes, we can
This
hear you. Proceed, Kenya. Thank you.
miserable
So I'm a
little
resident of
Golf
Eldoret,
GTI thinks he's fast,
and
but it
after
isn't
the
a competition
riots
for me, you
on
know? He
we did
overtakes me at the right
the
side.
previous riots, there was the burning down of Sudi's Timber EXO, his personal club. And after his club was burned down, they have been doing sham prosecutions. I'm going to call them sham prosecutions because of the type of bonds and bails that they were posting for people. There was a man who was accused of stealing meat, and he was supposed to pay about 10 million in bail or bond. I'm not sure, but yeah, that how does that even account for the crime that they're asking for? I feel like they've started doing sham prosecutions to do as a how will I call it, as a show of power, so that they can use people as examples, so that we are in fear the next time we go out. And it is ongoing. I've seen even in Nairobi, the man who was being prosecuted for turning off CCTVs in Parliament. How can he have turned off CCTVs in Parliament and while he was confidently telling us on television, on Citizen, that he has CCTV footage of the people that apparently went into the Parliament? So if they have this CCTV footage, how was the CCTV turned off? And can these ministers be prosecuted for lying to the people because of the statements they're making publicly and the sham prosecutions they're trying to make to use people as examples? Is there a way for us to prosecute them for what they're doing, or for us to hold them accountable for their words? Because it seems they can say XYZ and do the opposite, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Paula. Keegan. Kindly unmute if I call your name. Obadiah, Engineer Eme, Gatswan. Anybody? Paulo? James, can you hear me?
Hello. Hello.
James, kindly proceed. Godfrey. Godfrey, we can hear you.
Guys, can I speak?
Yeah, kindly proceed.
So there is a question. My name is Sure. I'm speaking from Yamira County. So there is a question I asked about the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. So when we talk of representation, we should start with the offices that are unconstitutional. So I was asking, how did this office come to existence in the first place? Because with the constitution and with the different bodies keeping the government in checks, I really don't understand how the office has existed for the past 2 years and nobody's talking about it. So is there a way that this office can be done away with, so that it is not in the constitution, it's wrong, it shouldn't be there? So what is it that we have to do so that we get it out? And I asked that question, and I think you forgot to answer. Another question was on the fired cabinet secretaries. These guys, they are the wealthiest cabinet secretaries in the past 2 years. They have accumulated a lot of wealth. So my question was, maybe they could be so happy that they have been fired, but they've stolen enough. So I wanted to know, what is it that we have to do so that we get what they have stolen from us? They have stolen a lot of money, and you've seen how they have shown the lives they show us. They were full of themselves, and I believe that it's a good thing if they bring back all the money they have stolen. So what is it? How do we start? What is the process of making sure that all the corrupt cabinet secretaries bring back all the money they have stolen from us, from the government? So if you answer those questions, the two questions, I think I have asked them previously, and I think you forgot. So if you can answer that, I'll be glad. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other question? Uh, Anto, can you hear me? Paulo? Karaim, Keegan,
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
yes, we can proceed.
Well, my name is Peter. I've joined the group from Kakamega. Well, my question, or rather my concern was in regards to what the president, in regards to what Ruto has done yesterday by dismissing all the CSS. We shouldn't be happy because the last I checked, the accounting officers for any ministry are the PSS. Why should he fire the ministers and we have the accounting officers still in office? Maybe the Wakili, you can tell us what's the criteria that can be applied to make sure the entire system in the ministry, that is the accounting officer with the PS, the CS, are all sweet. We need fresh faces, new faces, vetted people, and all that. Is there a way we can also force for the PSSs to go home? Another thing, all these guys that have been proven to be incompetent, that the president has sent home packing, were vetted by the parliament. And you see, if the parliament, I'll give an example of a vehicle. If you take all the public service vehicles are supposed to go through NTSA for inspection. If a vehicle gets involved in an accident and the inspection shows that there were some anomalies which were bypassed by the inspecting officer, I think it's also the inspecting officer by the NTSA is supposed to go home. The MPs vetted these people and proved that most of these people are worthy to hold their offices. We just learned that wengine sijui walikuwa na diploma in tailoring ama ni cooking na nini, but they hold very high offices. So please advise on what modality can be used to have the PSS go home and the House, that is the National Assembly, be held capable and as to why they vetted these guys and gave them a clean bill of health to hold such offices. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter. Fabish.
I've just spoken. Peter, I've spoken.
Fabish.
Yes.
Fabish.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can proceed kindly.
Thank you so much. And I want to take first this opportunity to congratulate Madam President Faith Adhiambo for being elected to head the LSK. And I want to commend all the LSK team in this regime that truly you are working and you have restored the confidence of Kenyans in regard to legal matters. I think it is the first time that at least we see lawyers coming together and helping Kenyans to understand the constitution, to understand the law, and in fighting for justice. We have seen doing a lot of pro bono. We really congratulate you and continue with that spirit. Secondly, I am joining you from Jakarta, Indonesia. We have a family community of Kenyans here, and we have a problem. I thank that at least I get this opportunity to address, and Madam President of LSK is here. We have an issue that as a community here, we have been trying to help. We have some Kenyans here most ladies and some few men that they are languishing in Indonesia prison for various cases ranging from passports. Some they were used as mules, and they were jailed and prosecuted because they didn't have proper legal representation and the language barrier. And most of them, they lost the case and they were sentenced to various terms of jail terms. We have been trying to intervene and see how we can help. And when we engage with the Indonesian authority, we find out that they were granted a parole, which actually it is a standard that they are giving to all prisoners irrespective of the jurisdiction they are coming from. Other jurisdictions are doing the same. But now, when they were granted parole, when they went the procedure and that were required for them to undergo before given that parole, the last one was about the Kenya embassy to sign for them, acknowledgement that they are the citizen and they will help them in parole during the parole process. But the embassy refused to sign. When we confront the embassy, they told us that, we have to wait for the confirmation from the MFA. We wrote letters to MFA, and MFA again transferred us to the Attorney General. And we have been taken to circles. These people, they are languishing, they are suffering, and Indonesia is known for having overcrowded prison, which they are prone to diseases and malnutrition, etc. They are not helping them in any way, even those who are sick. Even there is one that we lost last year. He died of illness. So I want now to ask, as a members of a law society, how can you be able to address this issue? Because we wrote, it is the communication that we got from the embassy is that it is very difficult even for them to access the office of the Attorney General. And I don't know there was approval from the office of Attorney General. And we even engaged with Isaac Olochwer, who was trying to help in terms of, he drafted even a petition for one of the applicants, sent to Parliament that petition. That petition even is with us and is with the lawyer Isaac Olochwer, but that petition was not acted in Parliament. It was not read from 2022, I think around October until now. So I think by law, by constitution, Kenyans have a right to petition the Parliament. But how do you petition a Parliament where they close their ears? And if the Parliament failed to act on a petition, where else can you address? We already even addressed the office of the Ombudsman, but we have been taken circles. So I don't know whether you can have any help so that we can help these Kenyans. Second, my question I want to ask is about those corrupt individuals like those years that they were fired and other corrupt public officers that have been there before. Nothing is being done. And the Constitution gives a right to Kenyans that they can exercise it directly. I want to ask, is there a way that maybe Kenyans can make arrest if they feel like there is a corrupt official and that the authorities are not doing anything? Can they make arrest and go ahead and demand for prosecution from the judiciary? Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you for that. Keegan, Aluko, Elvis, let's talk.
Can I speak?
Aluko, proceed.
I have two questions. Each of them has got part one and part two. So there are four. The first question is that, just a background to it. I've given up personally on the government of Ruto, and I will not ask any questions that will assist him stay in power until 2027. So my question is there a constitutional way by which he can be removed from power? That's the first question. Question 1B is, I have equally given up on the whole political setup that we have. We saw the main opposition party today. They were preparing on joining government. And if you look at precedents, even CS Namwamba, former CS, was an ODM Secretary General. So when they join government, they will go there. So the big question is, how, in your opinion, how can we, the people, effect this change constitutionally outside the political setup? Question 2 is with regards to human rights. 2A, do you have a desk as LSK that has information about missing people? 2B, if that desk is there, do you have information of people who are currently, as we speak today, in police dungeons with charges that are related to the protests that we had? On top of that, do you have a plan at every police station to give them legal service? Do you have a fund, for example, to pay them bond? How many of them are in jail because they are unable to raise the bonds? Thank you, Mr. Co-host.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Can I ask my question?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you so much. My question is I just have one question, and it relates to those who violated the human right aspect. The police officers, the IG, under the command of the IG, now that is resigned, is there a provision whereby he can be held accountable for his personal actions while he was in the office? And this relates to the rest, even the CSS who were in the office who went against the constitution requirement. What are the provisions and what are the steps that can be taken? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that before Let's Talk you come in? So that we don't lose it, because there are so many questions. Let's Talk. Can you wait?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I will only restrict myself to constitutional questions because, as I indicated earlier, I'm representing the President of the Law Society of Kenya. Of course, we have several advocates on this call. I'm trying to admit as many as possible to be able to address to the constitutional questions being raised by the members of the public. I'll respond to a few questions. I think some of the questions we have addressed them. There is a question that has been raised about whether by ALUCO, whether there is a constitutional requirement to remove the president from office. I want to refer you to Article 145 of the Constitution. It provides the basis upon which you can remove the president. There are several reasons why you can remove the president. If you justify the question of gross misconduct, if the president is bankrupt, if the president is competent, and you can justify all that, there's a process under the Constitution. If the same is processed through Parliament, and the same is passed by Parliament by 2/3 of the members of the Parliament, then obviously the question of impeaching a president will suffice. It's a tedious process. The Constitution of Kenya was innocent when making proposals on these issues, but I think the bigger duty as members of the public, because as currently constituted, remember the ruling party constitutes a majority of the members of parliament in terms of numbers. So it's very difficult to impeach a president under the current government. But the Constitution did not ignore that provision. When you are discussing the questions of which government entity has disappointed the members of the public, between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, we found out that the legislature, and that's both parliaments, have contributed immensely in curtailing the rights of the public, in representing the members of the public on the questions of representation, on the questions of oversight, and on the questions of legislation, because they have the mandate to legislate the laws that govern this country. But again, we had a discussion about these individuals get instructions from the executive. And when we say they get instructions from the executive, you remember when the finance bill was being discussed in Parliament, a day before the vote, they spent their time at State House. And in the public eye, that was an event that was supposed to woo them to actually vote for the Finance Act. And we find ourselves here today. And so there has been agitation by a majority of the discussants within this space asking questions why Parliament is not taking up its mandate seriously. And even though we have had that discussion around 7 p.m., it's already 9. I will reiterate the position that we took earlier, that the reason why they have taken this position is because we as the electorate, from the respective constituencies where we elect these members of parliament, we do not consider the qualifications of these individuals. We do not interrogate whether they went to the schools that they allege to have gone, whether they have integrity, whether they have cases in court, whether they have a clean bill of health in terms of integrity. And so that it's very difficult, even at this juncture, to actually recall them. I remember under the previous regime of the Law Society, President Nelson Harvey did advise the President of the Supreme Court, that is the former Chief Justice, Maraga, to actually advise the President to dissolve Parliament on the basis that they have not met their constitutional duties. So there are several avenues we can use. And if the President was paying attention to what is happening in the public, and considering that that advice by Honorable Justice Maraga, Chief Justice Emeritus, is still in place, he should have taken that advice, even though the advice was sent initially to his predecessor, His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. He can still take that advice because he's now the holder of that office and dissolve Parliament. And that means that we'll go back to elections and appoint new representatives to represent us from each and every representative units. But we are here now. The Constitution provides for recall of the President. The Constitution provides for the recall of the members of Parliament. I ask you to pay attention. The Constitution is a very small document. It guides you on each and every aspect of law. The question on does LSK have a strategy on representation of individuals whose rights have been violated, and that I think it's a very important question, and we had already answered this question in our initial conversation. And this is what we said: we have over 30 cases in court since the first demonstration with regard to the finance bill. If you remember the Tuesday, when individuals went to the streets, the members of the public went to the streets, we have over 30 cases in court against individual office holders. That is the OCS, particularly Central Police Station, who participated highly in infringing constitutional and human rights of the members of the public. We have instituted proceedings against the regional head Nairobi area. In court, as the Law Society, we have instituted proceedings against the former Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Interior, Kithure Kindiki, in court. And I think a couple of these officers who had the mandate to instruct our police officers who came to the streets, who used live bullets, who actually abducted public citizens from their private places and released them without trial, violated their constitutional rights under the Bill of Rights. We have those cases in court. As we speak, the Law Society obtained orders from court that any person, any citizen within the Republic of Kenya who has been incarcerated for beyond 24 hours, if not presented in court within the 24 hours, he or she should be released at their personal cognizance. And I think that order has been circulated usually on the page of the Law Society, on the page of the President of the Law Society. And if you go to my page currently, you will be able to access the orders of the court for some of the matters that we have already instituted in court. And I think the question of holding these individuals accountable, and even though it's a repetitive question, we have already answered it as a Law Society, that we have taken necessary initiatives and we keep the public in check. If you visit the Law Society page on Twitter, on X, you'll be able to access the several decisions that we have instituted against the individual government entities and individuals who actually gave directives to use live ammunitions, to abduct Kenyan citizens, to kill and dump Kenyan citizens when they are exercising their right to demonstrate. I think I've answered some of the questions that most of the members have asked. As to holding IG accountable, even though he has been fired from office, trust me, we have several cases against the Inspector General of Police in his personal capacity. As a Law Society, there is a reason why we instituted these proceedings in his personal capacity, because we have reason to believe that these directions were issued by himself. And in any case, there is no provision under the new Constitution of Kenya 2010 to hide behind the office you hold to actually commit violations and offenses against the members of the public. I'll take several other questions. I have members of the public here and lawyers who can be able to assist us in this conversation. I'll take the several set of questions kindly.
Okay, let me jump in because I think for me, I think many people have spoken on the current situation in Kenya. They have proposed the way forward. But what I see in these spaces is we have a lot of ideas, a lot of proposals, but who is documenting them so that we have a roadmap to achieving all this that is causing the chaos in the country? Because if we don't provide ourselves with direction, we will take the direction of a tyrant. And we only have three options: either self-determination, and that is we give ourselves direction, or follow the direction of a tyrant, or we get lost. So I think the situation we are right now is because, in the first place, when we elect a president, the only thing we have is a constitution. But a president comes in with his own vision, with his own manifesto, which nobody holds him accountable. When he says he wants to create jobs, he does not give us timelines, and nobody can enforce those times because it is upon himself either to provide or not. You heard him the other day said, "I found you without jobs. So what are you telling me?" So I think we have failed ourselves for not putting the right systems such that whoever comes in, they have no two ways, they have no any other ways, but to follow the laid down visions, aspirations, and values. What is failing Kenya is the lack of values. Like, for example, you go in a primary school, you find kids with padlocks. Such little things is what grows in us, because once you have a padlock, it means you suspect your classmates. It means you have no confidence with whoever is surrounding you. It means already the thoughts of stealing has been installed in you at that young age. So it's about the values that we teach in schools. The child that is born today, how are we taking care of that new seed that has just been introduced into the land of Kenya? Because the future is in those children. Today we are just fighting, but our lives here is so limited compared to the child that is being born today.
Hello,
if
I
we
don't know
move-
whether I'm the only one who is lost or we are still on.
I can hear you. All right. So what I was talking about.
We are still on, Ndegwa. I will come to you, Council, in a short. Let our good lady finish.
Yeah. So I think what we lack here is the values. And what we are doing in this spaces is commendable, because everybody is airing. What do you think is wrong? What kind of Kenya do you want? So this is the right time. Because even if we remove Ruto, which we all want him to go home, yeah, what we really need to do right now is to set up systems so that whoever comes in, they have no two ways about it. It's either there will be a road to be constructed between Mandera and Turkana. If you don't implement that, there is no, you have failed the people. It means you have no, but you have to resign. Yeah, so we need to have our own visions, and then the budget. Why are we doing a budget of 1 year? It's due 2024, 2025. That is why we fail ourselves, because it means we don't even have our bigger. What is our bigger vision? What we should be doing is planning 20, 30 years to come, so that we have a budget. Instead of coming to riot every day, reject finance bill next year, what we shall be doing is appraising the leaders. In this ward, there was a road that was supposed to be constructed along this area. Was it implemented? No. Who was responsible? Was the money released? No. Why? And to where? So that we know people should now fall along that line. We don't have to riot to remove a person. It should be their deliverables. Should fire them. Once you don't deliver to the people, it fires you automatically. Just like an institution, when you're employed, you have targets. When you don't meet them, you're given a warning letter. The second warning letter, the third, you're sent home. Why are we not doing the same to our own country? So that we have, let's say, a budget of 5 years. Every year is just doing appraisal. This county government were given this amount of money. And this amount of money was supposed to develop these things and these things. Were they developed? No. So what are you doing in office? So I think that is where we fail ourselves. Let us put up systems. Secondly, let us have values. Because values, the lack of values is what is causing corruption. The lack of it. How can you steal money meant for children? You see, children are studying under trees, and someone is wearing a watch worth 1 million, yet constructing 3 classes. Is that watch can construct how many classes? It's the lack of values. And also, let's make corruption a capital offense. Let us have a cell in the Nairobi National Park, whereby we jail these people. We bring children from Mandera. Let us go and see these people who stole our money. Wakwe kama wanyama, tunawatreat kama watu waliiba, watu wanaenda kuangalia, huyu ndo aliiba hivi We put them in a place that it will be a public shame to steal even a pen. You will be treated like an animal. Uwekwe ndani ya huko ukae kama mnyama. Watu wanakuja all the way. We want to go and see who? Ruto. Who stole how much? 20 billion. Tumweke hapo, watoto wanakuja So it becomes a lesson to everybody. So I think as we push all these agendas, let us think first, what do we lack? It is the system. The reason why Ruto is behaving like this or not doing the work he's supposed to do, it's the lack of system. if you elect somebody to come in and the only thing they have is their manifesto, and half of the country did not even agree to that manifesto, will he be leading us? No, he'll just be doing his own things. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ndegwa, are you there? Cyprian, I can see you're back. Can we have Ndegwa?
Yes,
Yes,
I
you
am
can have
here.
Ndegwa.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Kindly allow Council Ndegwa to take over, then you can take over.
Thank
Okay, no
you very
problem.
much, Council, and thank you very much, the host, for this space. I think much of the revolution and the events that will change the course of this country are happening on these spaces. I have participated in several of them, and the last one that I participated was hosted by Dr. Mutunga Emeritus and Dr. Miguna. And one thing that is up, and I've also participated in various, but one thing that is so apparent is that people are so desirous to push for change of this country. There is an apparent agreement that the bare minimum that we want is a question of accountability. They also want to have institutions held to account. Most of those spaces, they are so much dissatisfied with institutions like parliament. But the biggest annoying institution is that of the presidency. And therefore, the agreement that is coming all over and the debate that is being generated is that we need to fix the presidency. What people do not know is how then do we start moving towards that direction of fixing the presidency? And what exactly is required of us to fix the presidency, and which constitutional tools are available? I have been one of the biggest proponents that this revolution must remain within the four corners of the Constitution, and that we should not engage ourselves in extra constitutional mechanisms that may make it difficult for us to go back to the Constitution. So when I was with in Miguna's space, I made the proposal of the four available tools. That is the first one, which is resignation, and the guy doesn't seem to heed to that call. The other tool is that of Article 145 about removal on the ground of incapacity. The other tool is about Article 146, the question of impeachment. And the other tool that I proposed is, if all these are not forthcoming, then we have to wait for the August, the second Tuesday of August. But the biggest disconnect is that people are willing to move to apply these tools, but they are discontented and are not very sure that Parliament can raise to the occasion. So the biggest missing link here that is making it difficult for us to hold institutions to account is the inability of the institutions to exercise independency, like the institution of Parliament. So I am suggesting and I am proposing, and I proposed equally to that particular space, that if we are to use these tools, for example, resignation, you cannot resign without in the absence of Parliament, because Parliament plays a role, because the Speaker receives the resignation from the President and goes announced and all that. If then you have to use the tool of removal on ground of incapacity, again, Parliament plays a major role. When you go again to look at the tool of impeachment, again, Parliament plays a role. And even if you were to say that we shall initiate the last option of the elections, Parliament still has to play the role of reforming the electoral system. So one of the things is that we must get Parliament back to the people. We must make sure that Parliament resonates with the people. We must make sure that Parliament executes the functions of representation. And how do we do that? We may not overhaulingly, or we may not perhaps go and recall all the MPs, but we need to have 2 or 3 or 4 MPs recalled. And they're being recalled on the basis of compromising the most sacrosanct creed of people's representation, so that then the rest of parliament will understand that parliament is distinct from the executive. And if you are to do that, therefore, then some of the tools available, like that of removal by way of incapacity, and I implore you to go and read Article 145. It's one of the best and the easiest route, because the Constitution speaks about quarter of the MPs attending, then the majority of them passing the motion, then the motion is transmitted to the Chief Justice, who within 7 days constitutes a tribunal constituted of a doctor and a lawyer, and then they have to evaluate the capacity of the president and then come up with a verdict. And the Constitution says that the determination of the tribunal will be final. I don't believe we can fail to get doctors and lawyers who can resonate with the clamor that is currently existing in the society. But will Parliament rise up to the occasion? And then how do we make sure that Parliament is held to account? Should we go the way of the salamu, ya kusalimiwa kila wakati? Should we go the way that the Gen Zs have shown us? And then to what extent then can we push that idea? The final submission is, we cannot wait upon the current existing domestic institutions to take over and deal with the issues of extrajudicial killing. This is beyond extrajudicial killing. In my view, this is almost to the level of extermination. When I was on Miguna Miguna space, a question was put: how many people should die so that then the threshold of crimes against humanity under the ICC statute can be met? In my view, I think the LSK needs to take the first action. That deaths have occurred, actions have not been taken by the requisite institutions. We have made attempts to make sure that the domestic institutions take over these matters, and they've just negated that call. I believe we need to go to the next level, where we're inviting the next international instruments to take over, so that anybody knows, whether you are Kome or wherever you may be, that you'll be held to account of your own actions. I am proposing, if members deems it fit, that LSK takes it, because LSK will take it as an institution, and therefore there will be no possibility of victimization, that we go to that now level of writing to the ICC, inviting them to come and evaluate the situation in the Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much, Wakili. I beg to be guided. Thank you.
Thank you, Senior Ndegwa, for your contribution. I want to invite Zaka Lakonya, Counsel, Advocate. Kindly, if you can respond to some of the questions that were raised earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel Manuel. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Proceed.
Thank you. First, I just want to quickly, there's a question that was thrown to the Law Society of Kenya regarding a certain situation that is developing in Indonesia, and and the challenges that have been experienced with regards to contacting and or engaging the Office of the Attorney General, and how LSK can be able to come in and help in terms of mitigating what is going on. My answer actually is a guide to the Law Society of Kenya in terms of how cross-border engagements are happening within the country, and how the Law Society can actually be able to come in and be able to help. I know for a fact that when it comes to criminal sanctions and criminal prosecutions in sovereign states, and how countries are able to intervene and are able to come in place and engage on a level of protecting their citizenship that are in foreign states, there must be an agreement that is normally referred to as mutual legal assistance that is signed between the states. So I think the Law Society of Kenya, in engaging with the Office of the Attorney General, whoever the next occupant shall be, needs to be able to affirm, and we need to create a system. And I agree with the last speaker, and I agree with the last speaker who said that we need to document some of these things that we are discussing about. We need to be able to write them down. We need to see how are we going to implement them? And in these engagements with the Office of the Attorney General, we need to know where our people are going. Greatest acclamations or some of the things that the president has been going around saying that he's doing is that he's creating work in foreign countries. But when our people go in those foreign countries, we are human beings and we live in societies that are governed by both civil and criminal sanctions. It is inevitable that one or two of our people will get in confrontations and will fall on the wrong side of the law. Is the president also providing a framework of protecting these young people that they are sending out of this country? And I think the Law Society has an opportunity right now to be able to engage actively with the Office of the Attorney General and the Office of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to be able to know where are our people going, and do we have a register of these people, and do we know where they are, and can we be able to engage and find out how we can assist them? Because a lot of our people are going out there and they are getting lost. They are being. We don't know who has died. We don't know who is incarcerated. We don't know all these things. And the Office of the General provides a framework of engagement with foreign nations. It provides a framework. That's why when you go to embassies and they are lost, it's because there is no framework of engaging. So I think there is an opportunity also to engage with the ever-evolving global economy. That not just the president creating these jobs, our people also find these jobs by themselves. And as such, we need to be able to know these frameworks, make sure that the countries where our people are being sent to are going to be able to there's an engagement framework where we can be able to trust them, and the mutual legal agreements provide that kind of a framework. Secondly, allow me also to just contribute to the question about accountability and about what has been happening in the country recently. And there has been a clamor: who is your leader? What do you, and there have been statements by politicians, leaderless equals to rudderless. That is nonsensical on stilts. I do not believe that accountability and which is what has been happening. I do not believe that accountability and holding the government that we have donated our powers to requires a leadership, a face, so that they can be able to engage. No. For me, the point that we need to insist on is that this is a system of a heightened accountability. And I'll keep insisting on this. There is a system of calling those people that hold public trust into accountability, into a system of accountability. Do you know that when the former cabinet secretary of agriculture, when they were put on their defense in parliament, do you know the first statement they said? He said that my boss is aware of everything that happens in my office. That should have been a warning sign. That would have been a telltale sign as to who is calling the shots in this country. And as such, therefore, we should not succumb and should not be confused by being tagged or by being called into appointing or identifying or being associated with any particular kind of faction, leadership, or direction. The main point of patriotism is to the flag, and it is to what is right with this country. So I just wanted to put across those 2 points, Manwa, to the first point being that the question of what is happening in Indonesia, as has been raised by one of the former speakers, I think the Law Society of Kenya needs to take up a measure and steps in engaging the Office of the Attorney General and finding out if there is a framework of engagement with this particular country and seeing what are the terms and conditions of those engagements and the questions as to extradition and all those factors, so that we can be able to help our citizens who are abroad, who have gone there to find work. And then the next point is about basically maintaining and sustaining this framework as a part of accountability measure in our country. Thank you so much. I rest.
Thank you, Zach. I appreciate those contributions. I want to allow Simon to take up the mic. I think you have the mic, Simon. Then we come to ASK, Ochi, and then to Onyonga. Simon, can you hear me? If Simon is not ready, ASK, Ochi, you have the microphone. Fabish?
Yes, thank you. Allow me to just clarify something. I thank the council that just spoke and addressed my question. What I just wanted to make shed more light about the issue, so that because I hear now that maybe somebody will be noting and then later to be addressed, is that this issue started in way 2021, and we had followed the process. Number one, first, I want to know what is the capacity of ambassador when he's posted in a foreign country, because we see this issue, we find out that other jurisdiction, because even we have even when we read the petition, we annexed with the with what other jurisdiction are doing, like Tanzania, like South Africa, Nigerians, they are signing for their citizens. So it was not because there was no any money that is involved that maybe need the taxpayers will incur the cost. So the issue reached the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the embassy had told us that actually it was the laxity of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to just grant him permission to just sign that paper. Actually, that is what the embassy here, Ambassador Mr. Boru, told us, that he just needed a permission from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So, as you are asking, because that question has been tabled, even the Deputy Speaker of National Assembly, Boshole, you engaged with her, and she told us that there is nothing new law to formulate. It lies squarely on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to just execute it, because before you open embassy, there must be a bilateral agreements. So I don't know whether maybe LSK will start by asking Mr. Mudavadi now, because Mudavadi is the one now that is remaining in office, and everything is based in his shoulder.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I have ASK, Ochi? ASK, can you hear me? ASK? Zach, are you able to respond to the questions? And I think we have Council Ndegwa still here. Any question that is
Yes.
raised with regard to the Law Society, perhaps it's very important that you guys can be able to weigh in. Zach, kindly proceed.
Thank you, Manuel. I understand the challenge and the concern that has been raised by Fabish. And I think, again, good people, this is also another framework of engagement that we also need to interrogate. Our ambassadors, what is the qualification criteria that goes into the selection of these individuals? What is the JD? What is it that they do when they go there? There are so many times, without number, we've had to have people who have gone out of the country. And as a practitioner in immigration law, I have had to experience this when our people are helpless out there and the embassy can't do anything about it. It's almost as if ambassadorial appointments are tokenism, just as cabinet secretaries has been in this government, and maybe also in governments gone by. So I understand that apprehension, and there is a confusion indeed about the extent and role of the mandate of ambassadorial appointments or ambassadors, and the role of the office of the foreign affairs. And when you go, they keep throwing people around. Go to the embassy, then go to the foreign affairs, then go to attorney generals. There's lack of clarity there. So for me, while appreciating the challenge raised by the last speaker, Fabish, we also have to throw a challenge, because under Section 4 of the Law Society of Kenya Act, in terms of enforcement of the rule of law and on the insistence and assistance to government in administration and guidance on the enforcement of the rule of law, I think this is an area that has been left bare. This is an area that has been left without guidance and without proper clarification, because these ambassadors are paid by public funds. So anybody earning a penny on public funds, from public funds, needs to be accountable on their job description and in what it is that they do there. There was a story long time ago about an ambassador who was sent into a country and ended up becoming a drunkard simply because they did not have or did not know what to do. So they would end up hosting endless cocktails. Is it what they do with our public funds? Is it what they do when they go out there? So this is another area of accountability. And I want us, even as we keep engaging, to interrogate every aspect of our public administration, of our governance, of our representation, internally and externally, so that then we address and be able to address all these issues that are rising. Because so many times we've had to be able to seek other lawyers in foreign jurisdictions to come through for Kenyan citizens who have come into with the law. So I understand what Fabish is saying, and my challenge is to the Law Society of Kenya to continue expanding its area of reach, its area of influence, and just asking tougher questions. It has been asking so far. Excellent work to the team led by Faith Odhiambo, and yourself, Manwa, and Mora Kabata, and the rest of the council members. Excellent work that you're doing. Continue asking these tough questions, continue engaging relevant authorities, and with these particular spaces, we'll be able to know what our people are going through and be able to intervene. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Zach. Council, I don't know whether ASK, Ochi you have the microphone. We have Steve, we have Francis, we have Pius. Any of you who want to take up the mic, kindly. We have Simon and Buck. Any of you, so that we can drop you. We have so many speakers who want to speak. Buck, kindly proceed.
Hello.
Kindly proceed. We can hear you.
Hello.
Buck.
I'm on.
Let's have Buck, and then we can have the rest of you. Please. Thank you.
Okay. Hello. Thank you for giving me the mic. I hope you can all hear me.
Hello, can you hear me, guys?
For
The
order,
space is
let's
quiet
have
from my
ASK.
side.
Hold on a bit, yeah. I think we had a speaker proceeding,
Yes,
right?
I was speaking.
Okay, kindly proceed.
All right. I hopped onto this space a little after it had started, so I don't know if this question has been brought up, and if it has, I apologize in advance. But my issue is a little bit more immediate. I understand as we are planning what to do next, how we are going to proceed, what measures we're going to put in place. The cabinet was fired yesterday, but we know that they have been doing things there for the last 2 years. And I wanted to find out, is there a way that we can pause, because they are going to bring in new people. Crap, sorry. There's a dog barking, sorry. So I was saying they're going to bring in new people who we are hoping will be straightforward people who are clean, people will do work that is not tainted by corruption of the people who've left. But we also know that the truth is the institutions are the ones that are corrupt. So what can we do to assess the state of the current institutions? Because if the bath water is dirty and you bring in something and you put it in the dirty water, whatever you put in is going to be tainted. So what can we do right now to assess the state of the ministries? We had information yesterday, someone talking about how JKI is about to be leased out to some organization for 30 years. And that's just one of the things that have been, brought out to the light. is there anything we can do as a people, as the LSK, to say that all the ministries needed to be audited to find out what deals have they put in place, which ones have already been okayed, how were they okayed, what kind of public participation was involved in these deals as they were being made? Are there any corrupt deals? How can, if is it possible for them to be cancelled? And then this needs to be brought out to light, because if you don't sweep, if you don't throw out the dirty water, everything that is put in there is still going to be tainted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's have Simon. Simon, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
You have the microphone. Kindly proceed.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity to raise a few questions. I just have a few questions for the legal team, because I think you guys are much more advanced when it comes to constitutional matters. One thing that I'm worried about is the way our government is structured. It creates a little bit of inefficiencies because of also duplications of roles. So, for example, the former CS of health was coming under fire because of the posting of medical interns. But if you look at the way the health sector is structured legally, her hands are tied because we devolved the health docket to the county government. Now, I've done a little bit of reading, and I know that there was an idea that was proposed in the drafting of the constitution, where there was supposed to be the National Health Commission was supposed to be created to take care of our medics. And I guess my question to the LSK is there any way that you can help out to push some of these agendas forward? Because having an institution like the National Health Commission would really aid the young people in the medical fraternity who are trying to prop up their careers. If we don't take such moves or execute some of these strategies, we're going to be stuck in the same rant over and over again. It's quite unfair because the teachers have their own teacher service commission. Parliament has its own parliamentary service commission. Judges have their own judicial service commission. But our doctors, our nurses, and this is a critical sector of our economy or of our country. They do not have their own commission to take care of their well-being. So maybe my question to the team in LSK, is there a way that you can help? And maybe also throwing another thing out there. This whole movement came because of the country's financial position. Now, I have a background in finance and economics, and I know very well that we have been burdened by debt. And I know people are throwing shade at the IMF, but the IMF came in to assist in as much as the way it assists us is usually pretty painful. But Kenya is overrepresented and underserved. We have too many lawmakers, both on the national level and also on the county level. And I believe, I know it's an uncomfortable conversation for Kenyans to have, but the only way we are going to rescue our country from the pit is if we shrink the size of the government, particularly shrinking the size of county governments, because having 47 counties in one country is just ridiculous. There is no country in this world that has such an expensive structure of government like Kenya. It's too expensive. And if we are not able to admit that to ourselves, then we'll always be stuck in debt and overtaxation territory. My last question would be on police reforms. So today there's news about bodies being retrieved. So my question is can the LSK help push for police reforms, especially when it comes to the mode in which somebody is arrested and taken to the police station? Because over the past couple of weeks, we've seen police officers in plain clothes huddle people into private vehicles. I mean, there's no label on the police car. It's actually not a police car. There are no plates. Do we have a policy that if I am arrested and I'm taken to a police station, I am afforded a phone call to call a couple of friends or my family members so that at least they know where I am? And if the police do not follow such protocols, are there penalties? Is there a way to take action on police officers who do not follow certain protocols? If anybody can help me out, I would answer some of these questions. Maybe I would really appreciate. I will leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Simon. I will split some of these questions to several of the advocates on this forum. And I think I appreciate the fact that we have some of our noble members within the forum. We still have Ndegwa here. We still have Zach here. Let me just respond to a simple some of the questions that have been addressed to the Law Society, and the legal questions will be addressed by the advocates on this forum. And particularly, I'll address the question of documentation of what has been happening the last few months, the last few weeks, and whether there is an institution that is documenting what is happening. I can inform you without any fear of contradiction that the Law Society has been documenting all conversations, including this one and the rest of other conversations happening in other spaces, because we have our representatives in those spaces on the views of the members of the public, and we will be able to channel those views either through the parliament or through the courts. As I indicated earlier, we have a committee that is dealing with questions of legislation. We have a committee that advises the National Assembly on every bill, including the finance bill, on what the public feels right and what the law requires that those bills should conform to. And I believe I've answered that question in terms of documentation. And I think this question stretches to the question of Simon as to whether the Law Society is privy to what is happening in terms of the bodies that are being retrieved from the different spaces as a result of Kenyan citizens exercising their right to demonstrate. You will be surprised to note that the Law Society is on the ground. It already knows the number of people who were dumped within that space. We are working closely with human rights organizations and civil societies, and we are documenting these issues. And so that you know, and I think most of you have seen that the IPOA, Independent Police Oversight Authority, issued a statement earlier as on the questions of abductions, injuries, and murder questions of individuals who demonstrated their rights to demonstrate in the streets. We are following up keenly because we initiated the conversation with them. We intend to hold them accountable to the last person who has been found to dead, injured, abducted, or whose rights in terms of being held at a police station was beyond the 24 hours period. I guarantee you that as the Law Society will ensure that the individuals within those offices will be held accountable. And I am happy that the bodies that were found next to a police station. It's very obvious that if a police station is next to a place where injustices were committed, then the OCS in that station, the police officers in that station must take responsibility as to how those bodies were dumped there opposite a police station, how they got themselves there, how these people were murdered, and how they were and how their lives were taken away. Remember, every police station within this country, and I think this is what most of our members should appreciate, that a police station is supposed to protect the public. The reason why we have police officers within our spaces, where we live, where we reside, and to the lowest units, including the chiefs and relevant officers concerns within the regions, it's important to know that they are supposed to secure the protection of the public. But when they aid and abet in the murder, execution of innocent members of the public, then as a law society, we will have to hold them accountable. There are questions that have been raised about duplication of roles. Allow me to throw that question to any of the councils here, Ndegwa and Alakonya, the question of police reforms. And I think most of you know the role the Law Society has been playing in ensuring that police, the police reforms are effected, and that people do not hide behind the institutions where they have been appointed to, and orchestrate violations against the Constitution, and then hide behind the office that they have. And as I spoke earlier, I indicated that we have to ensure that the individuals in office must take personal responsibility. Any public officer, and this does not speak to the police officers alone, it does not speak to the Inspector General of Police, the Director of Public Prosecution, the Director of the National, the NIS, the Attorney General. The people we have put in those offices must take personal responsibility for actions of their own officers that violate fundamental constitutional rights. At this juncture, I want to invite Alakonya or Ndegwa to respond to Simon's questions on duplication and the health issues. I want to invite them to also to address the questions of whether we can hold our ministries responsible for the corruptions within those spaces, and whether the ministries can be audited. And I think we had an earlier conversation about audit, and we said under Article 229, the Constitution allows the Auditor General to actually audit all public institutions, including the Office of the President, on the expenditure of the public money. I reiterated the position of the Law Society on the question of the President, Madam Faith Odhiambo, being appointed to the task force on the public debt. You remember the Law Society issued a communication that we will not participate in an extra constitutional task force on the basis of the provisions of the Constitution under Article 229, sub-article 4, that provides that the Auditor General has the mandate and supreme powers to audit all government entities every year to actually give a report. And I ask the members of the public to visit the website, because these audit reports are actually recorded every year. If you go back in 2013, 2010, 2018, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, you will find to cumulative of 2024, because we have not finished this year, you will find reports, either adverse opinions or fair opinions, regardless of how the auditor determined. You will find those reports within that space and be able to actually institute proceedings or questions against those officers where adverse opinions have been issued. It's also important to note that the Auditor General's office is an independent office. And whereas it's a government office, there's a difference between independent constitutional offices and also government offices where the president can actually direct someone. The Auditor General, just like the other constitutional commissions and independent offices, the president cannot direct them, cannot instruct them. And these were some of the things that the drafters of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 put in place to ensure that there is nobody who's above the law, that the president is not above the law, that the Chief Justice is not above the law, that the respective speakers of the national assemblies are not above the law. They have to be put under scrutiny, and they have to actually substantiate the decisions they make. I will not go back to the Montesquieu rules on separation of powers and the respective functions of the independent offices that are in place under the three arms of government. But again, I understand the electorate, the members of the public, the citizens have the benefit of knowledge, the benefit of wisdom to read the Constitution of Kenya and interpret it the way they wish, and actually hold the people they put in office on the spot, especially when they go wrong or when they go against the Constitution. I invite, I don't know whether Ndegwa has a response to Mr. Simon's proposal before I invite Abdullah or Steve and Francis, kindly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, host, for the invitation and the honor to address this distinguished assembly. Indeed, this assembly will go in history of the assemblies that met to deliberate on the most important and fundamental issues affecting our democracy. As we all know, is that our democracy is at a crossroad. Our democracy is uncertain. The course to which our democracy will take henceforth is not capable of being ascertained as at now, because there are so many moving parts. And these moving parts are the ones that are bringing up about the question of duplicity. I will address duplicity in respect of the current existing situation and whether or not this duplicity can be harnessed to bring forth the question of synergy. I'm aware that there are some institutions that are undertaking some roles, like the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. I have met one of the commissioners, I'll not mention his or her name, and I'm aware that they are doing serious documentation on the matters and the episodes that are unfolding. But remember, the Kenya National Human Rights Commission is an affiliate of government. is also paid, or rather, they draw their finances from the exchequer, and there's some extent that they cannot perhaps be able to push because of the delicate balance that they find themselves in. On the other hand, LSK, having been established via an act of parliament, enjoys some serious autonomy because we are autonomous. We do not get financed by government. We do not even know sometimes we never benefit from government. So I believe by now we need to have established perhaps even something like a committee or um, a sector within ourselves to collate and collect the evidence in respect to the unfolding events. You remember towards the clamor of the multi-party democracy, LSK was an integral player to the repealing of Section 2A. And to be honest, most of the people are awaiting the lawyers in various spaces to give guidance. Why so? Because the members of the public have realized that although we are engaging ourselves in a political question, it is not likely possible that we're able to resolve the political question without having to intermeddle with the constitution. Like I said earlier, there's perhaps an almost agreed preposition that this revolution must remain within the four corners of the constitution. So in any space that perhaps you might want to join in the future, lawyers are being taxed to give the way forward, to direct the debate, to direct the nation on how we can have a successful revolution within the four corners of the constitution. So when LSK undertakes perhaps to collect evidence, like of those 9 bodies that were unfortunately discovered somewhere in a dump site, I do not think that LSK will be duplicating its roles. It is within the LSK statutory mandate to assist the community, even from a moral perspective, and not just to collate the evidence, but also to make sure that the evidence and evidence that is collected and collated is put into use and effect. So on that question of duplicity, I think we are good to go. We shall not be condemned of duplicity unless somebody else comes and says, I have also collected this evidence. I have done X, Y, Z in respect to the evidence that I have so far collected. So in my view, we need to move on. We need to soldier on. We need to create a serious parallel, perhaps, desk of missing persons so that we're able to take stock of those individuals who are missing. And this missing persons desk, I believe, should not be somewhere along Tanga Road. It must be a virtual one, because much of the revolution and much of the information is happening virtually. So we need to create a virtual desk where the details of missing persons are brought forth and known to the members of the LSK. So that then, if it then requires an habeas corpus application, we understand that then we can do this. If it's a question of perhaps collection of evidence in terms of post-mortems, we are able to understand and we're able to get effectively involved. Why? Because we must hold individuals to account of whatever is happening. We must hold them personally accountable. And that leads me to the question of the police reforms. Is it that the police reforms that we require at the moment, is the police participating in the extrajudicial killing because they have not reformed? I don't think so. The police has been involved in extrajudicial killing and abductions because of impunity. we have failed to hold them to account. And the day we shall successfully hold 2 or 3 police officers to account individually, I think shall send a certain message to the society, to the police force or the police community, that you do X, Y, Z, perhaps alleging orders from above, you'll be held personally accountable. The people pushing the revolution and the struggle forward, the Gen Zs, are depending mostly on lawyers and other professionals like the medics to assist them perpetuate and propagate the struggle forward. If the Gen Zs will get to know that LSK is ready with its lawyers, whoever will be arrested, we have a reporting desk, a virtual one. So we'll expect that we'll on the top on the snap of a finger, we'll be getting real-time information. On the question of the police reforms, let us not focus on the reforms at this time. The reforms are institutional in nature, will be required to involve other institutions and other stakeholders. As per now, what we are called upon to do is to stop the police from triggering when there is no desire or necessity to pull that trigger. We need to disarm them. And we cannot disarm them if we have, for the last 3 weeks, none of the police officers has been charged. We have not even challenged the office of the ODPP to tell us how far have you gone in initiating or making sure that the IG, the former IG or whichever institution has taken responsibility of executing the functions of investigations. So that then if you are not able to investigate within a periodic set time, we can be able to roll out other international juristic mechanisms. So in my view, reforms, we have the National Police Service Commission, which perhaps needs to be awakened, because we created that organization under the Constitution to perpetuate and oversee the police reforms. But as per now, is a question of accountability. Why have you killed so-and-so, who was so-and-so not armed? So in my view, Council and the members of the public present in this distinguished assembly, our role is to make sure that we disarm any person who is irresponsible and who is creating havoc in the struggle, and any person who is trying to sabotage the struggle. It does not matter whether Kithure Kindiki is home. As long as he gets lawful orders, he needs to understand that we are coming for you. In case, I'd like to rest my and pass over to the microphone for someone else to address the most crucial issues. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Thank you, Ndegwa Council. Cyprian, I hope you're here. Can we have Steve? Steve, I can see
Yes,
your hand is raised. Kindly
yes,
proceed.
sir. I will request you to, yes, I'll
Thank you.
request Steve before you proceed. Sorry to interrupt you, bro. After Steve, I'll kindly request you to allow Abdul Rahim to speak, Abdul Rahman to speak kindly. He's been on space for a while now.
That is fine. That is fine, actually. We can have him
Yeah.
after Steve. Kindly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Owakili, and I'm also happy to see LSK President around and Owakili Ndegwa. Now, my quick concern, literally, is a concern that I also need to be addressed, and I've had Owakili Ndegwa also mentioning part of it now. In my view, there's a total confusion on matters security and the justice system in Kenya. Why do I say this? People have been abducted and many found dead. And those lucky found in police cells. Then in court, they trump up charges for those who participate in protest. DPP, in its own wisdom, also approved some of these charges, quickly approved some of these charges, and to have the taxpayer be charged with full knowledge that some of these cases are likely to fall in court. And when you go to court again, the judiciary, on the other hand, entertains both the police and the prosecution and admits such charges against innocent Kenyan, who is accused of protesting, and it's also protected in the same laws. I don't understand completely. Just the other day, there's a charge that was going viral online here, where someone was brought before the court or was taken to court before a competent magistrate for allegedly saying Ruto must go. Who proved these charges? Is it the DPP? Is it the police? Is it the Kanjo? I don't understand. Even what happened to the freedom of expression. Now, between Ruto must go and what Farah Maalim said the other day, who should be in custody or should be in court? Another concern that I also want to raise about IPOA. I've seen IPOA making an appeal for members of the public who can testify against police officers who are either seen shooting at people or shooting at the protesters. Is that not a setup? Who would easily want to come out openly and to go and testify against police? And we know our history in the past. The stories of Willie Kimani is not lost on us. I think IPOA has a capacity, or they are mandated to provide that civilian oversight. I've never seen IPOA during protest, but I've seen Law Society of Kenya, the council there, joining the protest, not to participate in protest, but also to see some of these atrocities meted on innocent Kenyans. But IPOA, they are sitting comfortably in their offices with always a generic form of writing statement there for press. We are investigating. We are investigating. A police officer shooting at innocent person. How long does it take you to go and process or take it to DPP and also approve such charges? How do you want us to testify against a police officer or policemen who have done all these things to innocent protesters? Well, already you've cleaned the scene of crime and everything. I think IPOA is a great letdown, and maybe Wakili will tell us. Maybe I don't understand the role of IPOA, whether they should be there or it's just a toothless institution. I rest my case, and I also stand guided. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abdul. You have the mic. We have taken up, Steve, we have taken up your questions. You'll be able to respond after Abdul. Thank you.
Thank you, comrades. Good evening. My name is Abdurrahman. I am speaking from Mombasa. I want to join those who spoke before me to say thank you and to give flowers to the Law Society of Kenya led by Madam President. We have seen the sacrifices you have made, and we will remember, not forget. This journey can be so scary. This journey can be so lonely. And this journey sometimes could be so discouraging. But you have been our trusted friend in our struggle for our country to be better. I want to start by saying it has been quite such a long day. So I'm not going to make a long submission. But I want to say that it has been such a long day. It started by the Citizens Assembly in Ufungamano, in which Madam President and the other partners the other CSO, civil society organization partners were taking accounts of the victims and their families and their friends of the ordeals they went through. And I want us to remember the position or the place of Fungamano in our liberation struggle. For those of us that are younger, probably we're going to invest more in reading to get to understand why it was very important for us to go back to Fungamano and remember and tap into the wisdom and the courage and the bravery of those who came before us. I was touched by the presence of those that were fighting before us, and also when tapping into the wisdom in the tweets of Paul Muite, Gitobi Manyara, and to top it up, to spice it up by the poem by Kivoda Kibwana. I'm saying this because sometimes it is our history that is going to define our future. And this is the fuel we need to remind ourselves, the new country that we need and the hope that we keep and we pray for, and the country and the vision we might want to have. So my heart is heavy. All the things that the victims were saying they went through, from the lady Nadia being visited by strangers when she's in a night dress, and all them wanting to her to dress up in their presence, and all the trauma and all the issues she's gone through, to the mother that is looking for the kid Mwangi, up to so many victims and the stories, Okayo, Joshua, and all that. Our hearts are heavy. The day has been long. But to make it worse, in the evening and the late afternoon, the discovery of bodies in Kware, in Mukuru, have worsened it. I would love to move a proposal in this citizen assembly that it will be endorsed by members here, that the Law Society of Kenya and the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Pharmacists and Dentists Union will ensure that we are going to have private pathologists and family lawyers in those autopsy rooms when where the bodies are going, the postmortems will be happening for the bodies that have been discovered. This is for transparency and for closure, so that the stories are documented for the families, and even when we come to tell these stories, we are telling them from a professional, there is a professional documentation of what exactly happened. Sometimes these stories are hidden, they are never told, these reports never come out. But ensuring that we have our own privately funded, if we have to crowdfund and have facilitation for these experts, we need our lawyers inside those autopsy rooms, and we need our private pathologist in there to work with their government colleagues, so that we get to have the actual report and get to tell the public what exactly happened. My second proposal that I want to move, and finally, is we want to have a comprehensive judicial commission of inquiry, and the Law Society of Kenya needs to guide us on how we need to do this. And I would love us to exactly get to know what happened, who ordered the massive killings of our people, who was in charge of the commanding of the officers, which specific officer pulled which specific trigger, and what was the reason and what was the motivation behind the killing of innocent protesters that went to refuse to protest against overtaxation, against IMF backed proposals to overtax us and to make the cost of living unbearable more than it has been for us. And we want to be sure that the next time such things happen, there is not going to be a repetition of this. There's always a temptation for other political players to tell us, you know, we've been here and there's been no closure for the people who happened, or for people who were killed before. There were no justice. Why? What is your specific interest with this? For us, this is a radical revolution. There is so much clarity in our minds. We don't want to be confused for political matters. These are people that have given up their lives for us. We have people amongst us, patriots, that will never be able to walk again. There are people that will live with trauma. There are people that are going to be psychologically affected. And there's someone who said in another space, other space that we were speaking in the morning, that when everything has settled and all the dust has settled, we all of us will need some therapy because our lives have been disrupted and everything has happened. But before then, we would love to have a serious commission of inquiry in which we are going ourselves to appoint in a citizens' assembly, or we are going to have a say if it has to be presidential in appointment, in which we are going to have. So those two proposals, fellow patriots of doctors and pathologists and our lawyers, being those in rooms where the autopsies are happening, and a judicial commission of inquiry to ensure that we have an account of what has happening. Finally, I would also really love to say this kindly in less than 30 seconds. In the upcoming protests, we would love us to be really careful in documenting and capturing in our phones the people that come to disrupt our movements and give us bad names. For us in Mombasa, we are going to ensure that we capture them, and we have ways of well-built people walking probably on the margins as to protect especially the members of our opposite gender, to ensure that they are safe, their handbags are okay, their phones are safe and all that. But in the meantime, we need to ensure that we capture every person's motive, those people that have been motivated to come and snatch phones, handbags, and to loot shops and to burn vehicles and all that. We need them to keep them away because they are giving our movement a bad name. Otherwise, fellow patriots, we are together in the struggle. We are going to win this, and when this history will be written, we're going to be told that our only means of achieving our freedom was our mobile phones to capture the events as they were happening, and our flags to show our patriotism. Viva and congrats for everyone that is in this struggle. Thank you so much, and good night for everyone.
Thank you, Abdul. I think those contributions are important. Before we give the next speaker, I think it's important to respond to some of the issues that have been raised by Steve and Abdul on the question of trumped-up charges by the Director of Public Prosecutions in court. If you have noticed, the prosecutor who approved the charges for the prosecution of the member of the public who said Ruto must go, in that case, and I can speak with authority because the Law Society has been following up closely, the court allowed the person to be released without any cash bail on his personal cognizance, and I think that is important because the question of free speech is a constitutional question. And speaking about Ruto, this is not Uganda, this is not Rwanda, where you speak about the president or you speak the name of the president and you are persecuted. We have to distinguish between the different constitutions within this region and appreciate the freedom of speech, which is guaranteed under the Constitution. And so the Law Society followed up. The person so accused of saying Ruto must go was released on his personal cognizance. And as the Law Society, we are following up on this issue and any other case that is touching on the question of Ruto must go. And then on the question of IPOA, I indicated earlier that the Independent Police Oversight Authority has a duty to document and prosecute police officers who have taken the law into their own hands and used live bullets, executed citizens, injured members of the public, or used excessive force to people exercising their right to demonstrate and picket within our streets. And this is a message you have sent across the country. I want to make this statement. We have, as a law society, offices across all counties within the Republic. We have advocates in Eldoret, we have advocates in Kisii, we have advocates in Mombasa, we have advocates across all counties who are actively involved in documenting injustices against the members of the public. This is not our role in terms of documenting, because if you read the LSK Act, you will find out that under Section 4, we have a duty to advise government and to advise government about on the questions of the rule of law. We have done that under the leadership of the President of the Law Society of Kenya, Madam Faith Odhiambo. And we continue to do that because it's our responsibility. And we will hold IPOA responsible for the investigations, for the deaths, for the people who are being discovered having been murdered and dumped at Kware and any other place within the Republic of Kenya. Because any life lost, one life lost is one too many. We have to take responsibility for every individual death.
And what we need to do,
and that is the duty of the Law Society, not under this current leadership, but even in the previous leadership, they took that responsibility seriously. You cannot, even if you kill all the council members of the Law Society today, tomorrow, the new council members or the advocates in those positions will still agitate for these positions, because these are duties legislated under the Constitution and under the subsequent legislations through the Acts of Parliament. I think Abdullah has talked about the question of judicial accountability. And I think as a law society, we have been agitating for the independence of the judiciary. Because again, under the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the judiciary is supposed to be independent, supposed to discharge its duties without interference from the executive. But again, we have record of cases where we feel the judiciary has been interfered with by the executive. And whereas as the Law Society, we actually agitate for the independence of the judiciary in terms of the decision making, in terms of determining cases that are presented before it, we are not blind to certain judicial officers who are in bed with the executive to undermine the right of the members of the public. And while doing so, they actually undermine their positions as judicial officers to discharge their mandate under the Bangalore principles, under the Constitution of Kenya on the independence of the judiciary. And again, the Law Society under the leadership of the President, Faith Odhiambo, we will not relent in holding these individuals accountable. We have the Judicial Service Commission, and I want to pass my regards and condolences to Honorable Justice Majanja David, who died yesterday. I know for a fact that the Judicial Service Commission is mandated to investigate judicial officers who have absconded their duties, who have taken the law unto their own hands to discharge their duties against the constitutional provisions. And again, as the Law Society, we are monitoring what the Judicial Service Commission is doing. Remember, all the cases lodged before them are cases that have been presented by the members of the public on active cases that are in court. I believe the Law Society will continue following up on those cases that have been filed, either through representation by advocates or individuals, members of the public, who have filed cases against the individual judges, and will ensure that the public knows that which judge or magistrate within the judiciary is undermining the rule of law and taking the law in their own hands and abusing the discretion given to them by the Constitution to determine cases on the basis of corruption and on the basis of biasness. I want to invite the next speaker. We have Francis, we have James, we have Pius. Kindly, Francis, if you can hear me, can you take over the microphone?
Thank you.
Council, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Cyprian.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Now, I wanted to share with us two things. Number one is on the conduct of our police, and then on the issue of corruption, and a few proposals. Now, I think as a country, we don't value life that much as to what have been happening since I was born up to where I've reached. So many people die in mysterious ways, and the police just say the normal theatrics they always do. We are doing investigation. The media will only be active within that period when the event occurs, and then after that, it goes. Life goes on after that, and it is very sad that life which is purported to be sacred in Kenya, it is not that sacred. Somebody being butchered, being killed, it is normal in the Kenya that we live in today. And I think that has to stop. There are some funny things that really we need not to. Somebody being butchered. There are things that we need not to pass to the coming generation. For example, the bodies that were being retrieved. I don't want to speculate, but I believe they are going to do honest investigations, and then we'll get to know what really happened. But on the issues, people who lost their life during the demonstrations, these people went out to the street just because something is not happening right, not because they like. Something is not happening right. But now, the police that they are part of us, some of them are even our family members, some of them are our fathers, some of them are our mothers. We are only fighting for a country that we really love because we have only one Kenya. So, when, for example, some of the things that led to youths going to the street are even the high cost of living. For example, 2 years back, we used to buy 2 kg of sugar at 130 thereabout. Now that has doubled price. 2 kgs is almost 500. What used to be 130 in about 2 years' time, and your salary has not increased. So when we say no, that is not right, let us relook into this thing. Somebody sees you as an enemy and shoots you. That is unfortunate. It is high time LSK, together with other bodies that are mandated to protect the rights of the citizen, look into this issue keenly. It is high time we walk the talk. There is no need of just talking and we are not seeing action. For example, now, those who are killed, even the Inspector General, it is not just a matter of resigning. He is the one giving orders to the police, if I'm not wrong. Why, before resigning, why hasn't he come out and said yes, Kenyans, this happened. But we have identified the police, we have apprehended them, we are presenting them to court. Nothing has happened. They are just quiet. IPOA is just saying we are doing an investigation. How many investigations have IPOA done that you all know of? And what good has come out of it? So it is high time we need to talk real issues. And these institutions that are mandated to do so, they need to be held accountable. And I think LSK can do that on our behalf, because we need to make sure that life is sacred and it remains sacred. Secondly, on the issue of corruption, it is too painful that in the 21st century, we are still talking about corruption and nothing is being done about it. The president really, maybe a good number of us voted for him because of what he was able to resonate with most of Kenyans. He promised to fight corruption. And I was wondering, some of the people that he appointed into various positions, people who have been implicated in corruption. So you wonder, is this really the president that really wants to fight corruption? I mean, out of 54 million Kenyans, those who have not been mentioned in corruption, they are not there that cannot take those positions. And then, if maybe I can share with this I'm seeing the senior council members here. Why don't we as a country, I know that maybe death sentence is not allowed in the constitution, but it is high time now we talk about this. We face it as a country because we are having honest conversations. If somebody, for example, steals medicine in KEMSA that is meant for the hospital, how many people has that person killed indirectly by stealing medicine meant to go to KNH or any other hospital in the country? It could be that that person had killed a good number of people indirectly. That person who needed that medicine in the hospital has died because that medicine is no longer there, because he has stealed it and directed that medicine to a private pharmacy somewhere. So these people should not allow to live within us. We should see a way of amending our constitution and allowing for the corrupt to be hanged. That is the only way we can deal with this thing. Otherwise, people enjoy corruption. It is like just, it is normal. When you are corrupt, it is normal in Kenya. People will just talk about it in social media, and it just ends like that. You will hear Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission saying they are doing investigation, and the files are just closed after some time. And I think that is not really the way to go. So we need to relook into this issue. LSK, you are the umbrella that represent us there when it comes to legal issues. Why don't we look at a way we can have these people hanged? Because when you indulge in corruption, you are killing another person indirectly. So because you are killing another person indirectly by your acts, you should not be allowed to live as well. So we should review our constitution on that matter, put an amendment in parliament, and then we have these people hanged. So hanging, when you engage in corruption, you steal public money, we just hang you after you have proven to be guilty, of course. So I think that is the way to go. If we really want to deal with this thing, the president should come out and say, no, enough is enough. Now we need to deal with this monster that has really been killing us as a country. So these people should be hanged. It is high time. I know a death punishment was done away with in our constitution, but we need to relook that only for the corrupt. The corrupt, because they are killing us indirectly when they steal medicine in the hospital, they are killing other people. They should also not see the light of the day. I think those are the few things that I wanted to share with us. And I would really like to thank the people of Kenya, especially the youthful age. that saw it fit, deemed it fit that this country is not moving in the right direction, and it is high time, how painful it may turn out to be, that we speak the truth, and and that, as you have seen, a few changes has come our way, but we really need to press on, especially this issue of corruption. We should do away with it by hanging these people, because if we hang, next time another person will not indulge in that. And then we should also fight that the president, while he will be doing appointment to his cabinet, he will be looking for his new cabinet. People that should be appointed there are people who have who have competence, and who have done some disciplines with regards to what they are being appointed to. For example, maybe a minister in education. That could be somebody who has done something to do with education. Why should you maybe pick an engineer or somebody who has done business to be heading education? I think that is not right. So these are some of the things that maybe those who are close to the president could be sharing, because he said that he will be doing consultation. So it is high time that we hire people based on merit. If you are a CS of education, maybe you have a master's or a degree in education, or a PhD. In that case, you have done education and you understand what it means to head our whole Ministry of Education. I think that is the way to go. Thank you very much, Cyprian, for giving me this opportunity. Really, if that thing of corruption touches you as a people, my country people, can you look at that issue and let us have that amendment done, so that these people should be hanged, because they also kill us indirectly. The other time, farmers were sold fake fertilizer. They just talked in the media. What is happening right now? Nothing. The CS is just there. Nothing has happened. Nobody, okay, even leave alone the CS. I have not heard of any major arrest that now they sold the fake fertilizer. In fact, the president was even defending that, only a few percentage. But okay, even if it was a few percentage, what has been done? Has somebody been arrested for that in that case? So we really need to do away with this thing called corruption. Kenya is a rich country. We can even stand on our own without loans, only if we can do with this monster called corruption. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francis. I don't know. Can we have James? James, are you there, or Pius?
Thank you. Thank you, Kansu. Thank you, Cyprian. And before I speak, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Before I speak, let me send my condolences to all our heroes who passed on during the fight, and also give my flowers to the LSK and the president of LSK, Faith Odhiambo, for the work she's been doing. Mine will be questions and also input. Number one, we need to ask ourselves. Okay, I'm speaking from Carolina, Embu County, and I want us to ask ourselves where the rain started beating us from. And I feel as if the rain started beating us from when we came up with the new constitution and failed to move from the old constitution. We have had numerous backdoor amendment of the new constitution through parliament. And moreover, the assembly, the independence of the National Assembly was compromised through the Political Parties Act. It is not that Parliament or the National Assembly cannot be independent. It should be independent as per the doctrine of separation of powers. But through the Political Parties Act, whereby the political parties can take disciplinary action against members of the National Assembly who go against the political party's agenda. And in most cases, we find ourselves that in Kenya, the president becomes the party leader of the political party. Therefore, if you go against the president's will, the National Assembly, the member of parliament is disciplined. And all of them, we've seen a situation whereby it's God for us all and everyone for himself. And it was even seen when the president decided to dissolve the cabinet, the whole cabinet. I think, in my opinion, we need to amend the Political Parties Act to establish what we call the executive political parties and the legislative political parties. Let the members of parliament and the members of the county assembly vie through the legislative political parties. Let the president and the county governors vie through the executive political parties. Where by so doing, it means that the president cannot have a say indirectly to the National Assembly. If you look at Article 95 of the Constitution, 95 of the Constitution, subsection 95(5)(a) of the Constitution, actually, it's the National Assembly that should be able to vet the president. It's the National Assembly that should also review the conduct of the president and also introduce an impeachment motion of the president in case he fails to do his work. But that cannot be done when these politicians, these MPs, are tied by the Political Parties Act, Section 14 of the Political Parties Act. The other issue, Bwana Wakili, I want to ask is the Constitution of Kenya, as per Article 245, states that the Inspector General of Police is independent. And it is also enforced by the National Police Service Act of 2011, which was revised in 2017. And he should not be taking command from anyone else other than implement himself the policies that have been made. Even though the president sits in the NDC as the chair, then the National Defense Council as the chair, that does not mean that the Inspector General should implement to the letter what is deliberated on the NDC. It is upon his prerogative to give those commands selectively. Therefore, I wish to know whether LSK is taking direct implication to the IG, even though he has resigned, on the errors, on the impunity that has been orchestrated to Kenyans during his reign. The other issue is whether the positions of the chief, the position of the county commissioners, those administrative positions that were there in the old constitution, are they still constitutional? Because they are just ballooning our wage bill. If you look at Section 41 of the National Police Service Act, it provides for the the county policing authority, which, to my thinking, should replace the old version of the PCs, who are now the county commissioners, and ensure that National Police Service is devolved to the county level. But that has not happened. We have always continued to see increase in chiefs, increase in county commissioners, ACCs, and no matter the name we give them, it's my thinking that they are unconstitutional offices which needs to be abolished, and I need to be guided on that. And on the other issue is about the state of emergency that was declared by
zamani
by
ndio
Duare.
wakaipea ile jina sasa.
Article
la kwa
58 is
George.
very clear that the state
Wakishakuinda
of
ule
emergency
mnyama
should
wanatoa
only be
zile pembe,
declared
inaingizwa
in
kwa
accordance to
boti,
Article 134D,
inasafirishwa
which is
nje.
a law of the president to declare a state
Wakati
of
sasa kulikuja hiyo ban ya mambo ya biashara ya pembe, sasa ikabidi hizo mashamba watu waachilie, so haikuwa na any worth, lakini kulikuwa na some historical land injustices kule tunazijua, lakini hiyo sehemu haswa ndio sehemu ya kipekee imebaki na bado iko na ndovu. Na mimi nikikueleza sahi mi nahifadhi pale na nilikuwa nimefungua project pale ya conservation ili kujaribu kuleta mradi ya tourism, angalau wale community tupate some benefit pale. Ikawa hapo katikati nipata changamoto nyingi sana. Kulikuwa na mambo miwili ilitokezea. One was a compulsory acquisition that was being done by the National Land Commission for the Kenya Defence Forces for reasons that are still a big question mark, and I can't really discuss much about it. Nahofia usalama wangu mara nyingine. And now kuna hii issue sasa ya mining. So hii mining kutokezea ndio tukaanza kujiuliza maswali mingi sana. Kwa nini hapo? I did a bit of research on Base Titanium as a company. They have a subsidiary company called Base Toliara, Toliara Sands. Na ukiangalia kidogo historia ya hiyo kampuni,